Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Yes. Happy New Year, you guys. I am channeling Louise Jefferson. Listen, I sound just like Louise. Remember her off of the Jeffersons? George, I sound like her today. I am so happy to be here, but I'm not happy about the condition I'm in. But you know what? Like they say, the show must go on, and it's going on today. Welcome back to Season 7. This is the first show of season number 7. Can you guys believe it? It has been 7 full years that we have been coming together every single day, Monday through Friday, for 50 straight weeks every year, fulfilling one of the greatest promises available. And that promise is the one that we hold on to dearly, in my case, for life, because when 2 or more of us comes together, wonderful things are ensured to happen. And today, even with this horrible cold / I don't know what it is, you know, and of course all the conspiracy theorists in my family have been yeah, told you not to get that booster. Yeah, you know, I'm like the radio is like going through my teeth or something. I'm not kidding, but anyway, I got it. I got the cold. It's not COVID. I'm dealing with it, but I'm here. I'm so excited. How was your holiday? How was your Christmas? How was your New Year? We had a great time here in Chicago. Now, let me tell you how I got this cold, because I know. First of all, I was on the back end of one from when I came from the Heart of Hollywood shoot. Let me get this isn't the new magazine, but you guys know Heart of Hollywood and the Heart of Hollywood team, Giovanna Salas, all of our good friends out in where else? Hollywood. When I came from out there, it was 80-some degrees that day. when I got on the plane. When I stepped off the plane later, because I had a layover in Phoenix, so I got home like hours and hours later. It was 26 degrees here in Chicago. Instantly, I was like, instantly. So I was just getting over that. And here's what happened. New Year's Day. Well, some of you may know if you've been watching my page over the hiatus, because, you know, you had reruns all last week. My husband and Brian, Dr. Brian and I, had some guests in the house. Two of my coaching clients. And I'm telling you, I can't see anything. It's like everything's blurry. I can't hear well because there's fluid moving around. And when I blow my nose, which I inevitably will during this show, listen closely. You'll hear like all kinds of squeegee noises. It's just bizarre. So anyway, see, and these aren't senior moments. This is just sick moments. I had some coaching clients that came they showed up. When did they get here? What's today? Monday. They came last Thursday and they went home yesterday. I was so sick yesterday. Brian had to take them to the airport. I couldn't even move, and I'm so sorry. But here they are. There's Jeanette Ramos. She coaches with me. She's the mother of Daniel right there, who also coaches with me and has a show and is an associate producer with us here at E360 TV. Daniel Echeverria. Now, see, that I want to show this one first because he's probably going to put pictures like this one on his social. Like, you know, we don't get along, but we do. And he's like a son to me. I love him. There they are. They're out shopping and doing stuff in town. Daniel, my husband, Brian in the middle. We had a great time. Who'd you spend your New Year's with? Who'd you bring it in? Who'd you ring it in with? We had a great time. I want to share a little bit of that. I'm going to tell you something. One thing, note to self. Seriously, note to self. Do not ever buy those. I did it, but I won't do it again. Those, you know, those little, what do you call them? Hold on. There, that's what I was looking for. Those little kits with the hats and all that. That's fine. Just make sure they don't have them damn horns in there. I'm going to show you why. Here's what happened here, New Year's Eve. And oh my goodness. Wait, how do you do this? See, I'm not, okay, share. I'm going to share. All right. Okay. Do I see anything? Bear with me, you guys. It'll be worth this. Oh, and this isn't going to last long because the sound. Okay, where's my sound? There we go. Live. Okay, watch this.
I'm going to turn it around. You guys are live.
That's my niece, Dr. Selma.
They're going to regret this tomorrow.
Here comes Daniel.
There's Daniel.
Okay. Oh, God. See what I'm saying? And then they found out that it bothered me. So what did they do? They followed me everywhere around the property. Outside, inside, upside, downside, happy all the time. Well, that was my New Year's Eve. Thanks to all my wonderful friends. And thanks for the LMH Coaching Rock Stars that showed up over the holidays. There were others that came through to say hello. We love you all. We're going to crush it. We're going to crush it in 2022. Who feels that is the way it's going to go? Do you believe that's what's going to happen for you? If so, put it in the comments. Are you ready? Are you ready? What are your plans? I didn't say what are your resolutions. We're going to talk about that later in the week. I'm going to have some experts here on the show later in the week talking about that very thing. And I'm looking for something because I know I have it. I cannot see. Where is it? There. Crushing it in 2022. Usually I'm... Now today, y'all, I'm feeling every minute of 59. So here we are on season 7. So glad to be here. You know, I always pick someone really special for the first show. And we're going to celebrate, if not this week, Monday of next week with the new opener. How do you like season 7's robe? All black for the very first time. And as Daniel so notably stated, it's textured. Yes, it is. It has like a little diamond pattern. And it feels like butter. I just love it. My husband, Brian, Dr. Brian, always buys me the new one for the season every year. Now I have number 7. So what was your favorite gift this year? And what was the favorite gift you gave this year? Drop it in the comments. Inquiring minds want to know. And inquiring minds also want to know, and I got to pull it back up because I was so busy showing that bad footage. Guess who's here today? Dr. Chris is here, all the way from Canada by way of Ireland. So even though he's in Canada, he'll say things like mate and stuff like that. He's really Irish. So who is he? A lot of you were excited when you saw me post this yesterday. I think it was his top hat. You guys might go, woo, I'm excited. Let's hear about it. Well, here we go. Dr. Chris McCullough. I'm probably not even saying that right. McAuley, like Macaulay Culkin. I'm thinking. Dr. Chris McAuley, I'm running with that, is an acclaimed comic book writer. How often do you run into that, right? He's an artist. He's a character creator for DC and Marvel. He most recently won an award for the Scottish comic is the Lang Walk Hame. So I guess that's supposed to sound like, oh, Lord, there's a family member just put up on the screen. Oh, just wanted to tell you, your brother and I are no longer together. Welcome to 2022, y'all. He most recently, okay, the line, we're going to talk about that. The Lang, L-A-N-G, Walk Hame, H-A-M-E. But when he says it with the accent, I'm sure it's going to make sense. In 2019, and his artwork has been featured in the Glasgow Museum of Modern Art. Now, that's like saying the Museum of Science and Industry. The, or, well, not really, but, the art place. Oh, speaking of, we went there just the other day. We went and saw the Picasso, the immersive Picasso thing. Did you guys see that on my page? Life-changing. For me, anyway, it was. Anyway, Dr. Chris, he is familiar to fans of Judge Dredd, and he's been the assistant colorist on several 2080 comic strips. I remember those. And he's also inked various Marvel titles. The first one I came, Hulkvarines. So that makes me think it's the Hulk and vampires? I don't know. And also Vampirella. I refer to that. He is the co-author of the StokerVerse, which currently features 6 comic book ranges. Now, if I wasn't running out of breath because it's cold, I'd read the rest of it. But I'm going to let him do it. So, because, oh yeah, we're 3 minutes past. He's supposed to be in here already. You guys if you've ever had questions about Dracula, comic books, top hats, or anything Irish, stew, anything, get ready because you're going to be able to get all those questions and more answered this morning. Because guess what? Here he comes. Dr. Chris is in the house. I had to just cough and sneeze and all that while that was happening. Welcome, Dr. Chris. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. I'm feeling
I
well.
felt like you look. You look great.
Oh, thanks very much.
Yeah, welcome to Bathrobe Moments. You're in what part of Canada, Chris?
I'm in Edmonton, so Alberta. It's currently minus 23 degrees outside. I am absolutely serious. I think we reached a low of minus 50 last week. Yeah, and it's the snow's outside. So, yeah. So
you better stay inside.
Oh, so, yeah, absolutely.
Chris, you come clearly from Ireland. Tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got started, and how you wound up where you're at.
Yeah, well, my journey as a writer is it started 4 years ago. I'm very lucky to be mentored by the chap who started 2000 AD. So 2000 AD, as most people know, it was the home of Judge Dredd. You might remember that from the Stallone film and the film, I think it was 2010 of Carl Urban. But it's a very long-running comic book. He mentored me and started encouraging me to write. So I started writing comic books about 3 years ago, and also do some comic book coloring and a little bit of inking as well.
Acting.
Inking. So yeah, you would get the pencils, and then I would ink over the pencils.
So let me ask: when you say write comic books, are you illustrating as well, or are you just writing the words in the little bubbles?
Well, no. Generally, I write the scripts. So a comic book comes as in a script. So yeah, it's a bit like a screenplay, and you would write the instructions for the artist.
Wow.
You would write, the text is actually done by a person called a letterer. So they actually letter the text, and that's quite complicated. That's an art form in itself. It's like a form of calligraphy, if you want to put it like that. But no, it's writing a film screenplay. So you direct all the action.
Yeah. Chris, was it hard to get to that level? Everybody recognizes DC and Marvel, but there's a lot of knockoff brands or lesser known, let's say, comics that are out there. When a person, we're talking to the person that's like, oh my God, my son wants to do that. When a person starts, how do they go about it? You go to college to be a comic book person?
No, I fell into it. It was something that, I've always been interested in. I was interested in comics whenever I was younger. So like Transformers and Thundercats and all of that sort of stuff, Ghostbusters. And then I kind of fell away from comics. It's not that it was a massive part of my adult life. Yeah. I came back into it because my brother-in-law gave me a box of old 2000 AD comics, and I started reading through them and reviewing them on Facebook. And I was looking at a comic book as a form of literature.
Literature.
I passionately believe that. You see, a comic book, it's different from writing a novel. So I've written a few novels. I've written audio dramas. Yeah. I've written games and stuff like that. Game scripts, things like that. But a comic book is a wonderful synthesis of text and artwork. And you have to have a really good collaboration with an artist. Now, when we talk about, we've got Marvel and DC, and then we have independent comic book companies. The independent comic book companies are where you'll have more creativity, and you'll have more freedom. And that's where I would encourage people to start, is with the independent comic book companies, not with Marvel or DC.
And how long have you been doing work with those companies?
I was off and on. Well, so Marvel and DC were off and on. It's an interesting one because I got a phone call from he was a storyboard artist for Marvel, and he said, we're looking to create a new character. Could you help us? And it was work for hire. So it was pretty much craft a character, write 6 pages of a comic book, give us an outline, and we'll take it from there. Okay. That's the nuts and bolts of it. Obviously now I'm more famous for writing Dracula comic books, and we're now at the 125th anniversary of Dracula this year, so it's quite a notable date.
Oh yeah.
I've been very fortunate in a way that I've been able to have wide experience of writing different comics and different media.
So, Chris, let me ask you this. So, when we see a movie that's been adapted from a comic book series, say, for instance, say you created one of these new characters that they say, oh, we're going to put it in the next Marvel DC movie. Would you get anything for that? Or is a comic book writer's life over once he's written that particular episode or that particular volume, or however it works, series, I guess?
Yeah.
If it goes to the big screen, do you get to go to?
It depends on what your contract is.
Oh.
That's usually what it is. I always champion creator rights. That's why independent comic book companies are a lot fairer than the bigger names. Yeah. And you can get more sustained work with independent comic books as well. Most of the larger comic book companies will get you to sign away your rights to characters or
just in case
or anything. So it would be it would be gone. You mentioned the Lang Walk Hame, so that's how it's pronounced. Basically, Lang Walk Hame. The Lang Walk Hame.
And that's a play on the Long Walk Home.
Long Walk Home. Now, that comic book was created by a chap called Peter Watson. He's a poet, and it actually comes from a poem that he wrote one New Year's Eve. And it's about somebody who goes to the pub or a bar, in American terms, drinks quite a lot, and needs to go to the toilet. But as we all know, you never need to go to the toilet whenever you're in the pub. It's always when you're halfway home, when you're walking home. So this is his quest to try and find a bathroom during his long walk home.
Ah, okay.
And that's, the comic was launched in the Glasgow Museum of Modern Art. It was lovely to see the bits and pieces that I had done in there. But that's the form of creativity that you see with independent comic book publishers. There's a publisher that we use at the minute now for, we've just announced a Dracula sequel coming out in comics this year. And we use a company called Scar Comics. And Scar's an incredible independent comic book company. They work with some of the best names in British and US comic books with artwork.
Yeah.
And I've got an incredible distribution network as well. So I always encourage people to go and look at independent companies before looking at Marvel and DC, because they will have their rules on how you can write for their characters. So there's not as much creative freedom.
A lot of people, I used to be under the misconception that comics were for kids, But of course, if you've ever been anywhere near Las Vegas, and when I lived there, I ran into it literally, Comic-Con, and adults, I learned a lot about that when I was in Vegas just this summer for the Star Trek thing. You think it's one thing, and when you're there, it's completely different. So which would you say is really the world of comics? Is it kids? Is it adults? Or is it both?
Depends who the comic's intended for. Like, we have to shatter the myth that comics were meant for kids. I mean, okay, back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, they were mass produced, and they were sent out. And I would actually credit Stan Lee for a lot of the literacy in America, because what Stan would do is he would deliberately put difficult words into the script because he knew the kids would go and lift the dictionary and try and work out, where what the word is. Now, UK comics completely revolutionized the world of comic books, even with comic books like Transformers or G.I. Joe or whatever it was we had back then.
Yeah,
the stories became a lot more adult. There's stories about drugs, there's stories about addiction, there's stories about all sorts of things. And then
comic books can have a real story.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you look at Alan Moore, what Alan Moore did with Watchmen, for example. So Watchmen was a comic book. Watchmen's incredibly adult, and I think Watchmen was one of the comics that changed the perception. I mean, Watchmen was one of the comics that was on Time magazine, cover of Time magazine. So comics can have an awful lot of depth and emotion and soul, and can also be educational. The first graphic novel that I wrote for the StokerVerse was an adaptation of one of Bram Stoker's short stories. So they can be used to bring out literature into new markets as well.
To help bridge the gap. Because, and that's great. I love this because this is perfect. I wanted to ask about this. Digital. A lot of people don't pick, especially young people, don't pick up real books with real spines and pages and stuff. Everything's digital. I know myself. I bought the Will Smith book when I went out to Hollywood a couple of weeks ago. I still haven't even cracked it. I should have known, because I'll buy a hardcover book. My husband will sit here. He reads probably 10 to 15 books a month, and he highlights all through them. And I pick a book up. Now, Audible, I can listen to a book because I'm in the car or on the treadmill or something. Tell me about this. Are people getting their comic book experience through a digital platform nowadays? Has that happened? Because I don't know. Yeah,
that's a major platform now.
Really?
So yeah. So you can get it on your Kindle. You can download them and put them in your your PC. You've got various applications like Marvel Unlimited, for example. You pay a subscription and you've got access to thousands of comics during that subscription.
Digital comics.
Digital comics. I don't own very many physical copies of comics, even comics that I've written or worked on.
Really?
I mostly own digital.
So wait a minute. So Chris, how does that affect the collector?
Oh, the collector's market's been dead for about 15 years.
It has?
Yeah. Never invest. Like, the myth of, investing in comics is as good as buying a bank bond.
So not a good thing to do.
No, that caused the comic book crash of the sort of late 90s, early 2000s, because people were buying collector's editions of different variant covers. Look, if you collect comic books, you collect them because you enjoy the story, you enjoy the artwork, you enjoy what's on the cover, and it's something that you'll go back and you'll look at, and and you're it's basically collecting books, a book series. But if you think they're going to be a financial investment, I would urge you to think again and have a look at that. That market's gone. Comics are mass-produced media. What are they used for? Well, they're used primarily for some people as proofs of concept. So if you want to get something made into a video game or made into a film, you can use a comic book, and an executive can look at that and read through 20 pages, 30 pages, look at the visuals, be inspired, and you might get your project greenlit. It's easier to do that through a comic book than it is through a novel, because somebody has to look
through a novel or a treatment for a film, a screenplay.
Yeah,
put it into a comic book. You're saying,
but a lot of comic book writers like myself, comic book creators, we do it because we believe in that synthesis between the artist and the writer. That's paramount to us. So writing a novel is a different experience because it's very solitary.
Right.
And what you're trying to do with the words is constantly convey scene. It's an art form in itself because you've got to constantly convey scene, narrative, interpersonal experience, characterization. You've got to do all that within words, and with a comic book, what you can do is you can collaborate with a fantastic artist and craft all that, and somebody opens up the page and boom. Comic books are more about the visual impact, immediate visual impact. You've got, one of my mentors said, you've got a page in a comic book to capture somebody's attention.
Yeah.
I actually think you 3 panels, the first 3 panels of a comic book to capture somebody's attention. So it's a different media to work in. And
it is.
It is a very sophisticated media to work in. So moving past it, there are comic books that are for kids, and I think I can't write for children. I don't know if you were present at the Heart of Hollywood event whenever I read out one of my stories. I am not a children's writer. I am here to take your soul. I am here to psychologically maim you with my stories, whether it be horror, science fiction, cyberpunk, whatever. That's how I write. That's what I try and do. And whenever you read a comic book that I've written,
yes,
it's going to hit you pretty hard. And that's the power of the media.
And the interesting thing is, and before we go to break here, this would be a good thing to come back on. It was just a few weeks ago, actually, December 11th, when famed writer Anne Rice, as most of us know, she was an American author of Gothic fiction, erotic literature, but a lot of people don't realize also she was known for Christian literature. Best known, of course, for her series of novels, The Vampire Chronicles, that sort of thing, and the movie. Remember that one? Empire was an interview with the vampire. Your reason I bring that up, especially highlighting Christian literature, is you are Dr. Chris, and your doctorate is in, your PhD is in?
Theology. Yeah.
Theology. Huh. Interesting that you and Anne Rice write these things where you capture people's souls, or however you put it, you maim our souls through this stuff. but you come from a background of organized religion. Interesting. When we come back from this brief break, I had to slow it down for a second. Chris, I'd like you to talk about how in the world you went from that to this. Is that okay?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay, you guys, there it is. We're going to find out how he went from that to this. And does he still? Well, he put the DR out there, so we're going to find out. You guys don't go away. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I'm your host, Louise Jefferson. I'm sorry, Lauren Michaels Harris. I sound like Louise Jefferson in my world. Welcome back. And you saw during the brief break, it's coming up, you guys, April 28th in Chicago, our third annual Power of We Symposium, where we bring in 250 of Chicago's most wonderful youth from Chicago's hardest hit areas. And that's no joke. These kids, some of them have to walk down the middle of the street to get to school every day because it's the safest place. They can't walk on the sidewalks on either side because there's drug dealers over here, drug traffickers, and sex traffickers over here. So they literally walk down the middle of the street to get to their buses and their trains to get to the schools they go to all over the city. We bring them in and we pour into them. We want you to help us. So get over to powerofwesymposium.com. Sherry, can you drop the link in for everybody and get your tickets? Eventbrite, Google it. You'll find it there. We can't wait to see you guys here in Chicago, April 28th. Last one we did was in Atlanta, and we got an award from the United Nations for it. So that tells you we are doing it, but we can't do it alone. So won't you come and be a part of the power of we, not the power of me. Can I get an amen? There we go. Before we get Bram Stoker's cousin, Chris, back in here. Can you see it? V8. I should have had 4 of these the day I was locked in the garage. Did I tell you that's how it happened? Yeah, I got locked in the garage. I was sitting out there for almost an hour in a bathrobe and underwear. Luckily, I had my phone in my pocket. They were all gone sightseeing, and I was stuck in the garage. I went to take some trash out, and someone locked that door. And so that's how I was out there. But anyway, this will help me get myself right. V8, can you see that? I love it because it's 60 calories in every can. It's 100% vegetable juice from concentrate, and it is delicious. I'm not kidding you. It really, really is. 2 full servings of vegetables in every can. Like I said, 60 calories and easy peasy to find. Head down the juice aisle in your local grocer and pick yourself up some V8 today. Ooh, note to self, do not drink V8 with a Vicks cough drop. I'm just saying. Okay, Chris. Ew. Don't mix those two. What? Oh. All right, Chris, Dr. Chris, theologian. So you got a doctorate in theology. Were you dabbling in all of the, because you know a lot of religions, then when you talk about vampires and stuff, I was raised in a strict, Seventh-day Adventist home, strict religion. There's no way my mom would have let me have anything to do with vampires, monsters, any of that. It wasn't allowed. So how did you make this journey from there to here, and how intertwined are these two worlds? I think people might be surprised.
Well, first of all, writing about vampires it's fiction. And I have to say, I don't just write about vampires. I do write about science fiction and all sorts of things. But yeah, theology is always fascinated me because it's about story. It's about the oldest stories. I mean, one of the oldest stories ever told was the Epic of Gilgamesh. And that's where we get our flood myth from in Genesis, is actually from Syrian mythology. So the ancient Near Eastern cultures are really the hotbed of where we get our understanding of story from. And we continue that today. If you look at the Bible, the oldest book in the Bible is actually Job. And Job's an incredibly interesting book because it questions, Job goes through terrible things and questions the nature of his existence and the nature of God itself. And that's not so dissimilar from the questioning nature of some comic books. If you want to look at parallels between religion and comic books, have a look at Superman. Superman's pretty much Jesus Christ. Superman is powered by the sun. Christ was a solar god. If you want evidence for that, when Christ is crucified, the sun disappears. So there's lots of things, when you look at Genesis, Enoch lived for 365 years. 365 is obviously a solar year. There's lots of little tales within religious texts that are allegorical. So we come to maybe, you talk about Anne Rice's Christian books, Christ the Lord. Those concepts were brilliant, and she tapped into what would it be like to be a demigod? What would it be like as a child growing up to have all these sort of powers and gifts and maybe not quite understand them? With the monster side of stuff, the darker side of stuff, one of the most disturbing tales in Judeo-Christic narrative is Cain. Cain the first murder. I don't personally believe in the devil. I don't believe in anything really supernatural.
So wait a minute. You don't believe in anything supernatural?
No.
So you're saying including God?
Well, if we look at it philosophically, if you believe in God as a first cause, then God might not be supernatural, but just part of the natural world. It depends. As I say, I don't know. I'm not a religious person. I would consider myself, and it's the ultimate cop out to say I'm a spiritual person.
Yes.
What I mean by that is that I look for wisdom, and I think wisdom is important, and I think it's important to be kind to your fellow creature, whether that's human or animal, and I think that is remarkable. That actually goes against evolution. It goes against the survival of the fittest. And it comes from philosophy. It comes from teachers like Socrates, Plato. Great minds who fashioned morality. And also, yes, we go back to religious texts and story. Story is fundamentally important in how we formed morality, law, concepts of justice. So that's really important to me as a writer. Now, I write some pretty horrible stuff. I mean, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I mean, I've written stories where like rats are bursting out of people's heads and all sorts of things, Yeah. So I mean, I write some visceral stuff because that's part of the genre that I would write.
So why do people need that, Chris? When you're writing it, what are you doing? Why do I picture you going, now I need something right here? I know. Some rats are going to pop out of her eyes. That's it.
Well, I'll tell you, the reason why I did that was because rats aren't scary until you show the things that rats can do. So again, it's a narrative thing,
You ever
right?
been to New York
Well,
and had one run across the sidewalk in front of you? Yes,
No.
they are. And they're the size of cats there. Okay, I'm just saying.
But yeah, so I mean, look, why do we enjoy being scared? Okay,
There you go.
it's part of our makeup. It's part of our evolutionary makeup. It's part of our genetics. We love it. Why do we like watching horror films? Because we are safe, but we want to feel that fear. We want to feel that primal emotion. Why do you like watching love stories?
Right.
Because it's the primal emotion. It's to feel something. And really good entertainment will get you feeling something, you know. So
there it is. Say that
that's
again, Chris.
you know,
Say that again.
good entertainment elicits an emotional response in the person that's engaging with it.
It
Right?
gets you to feel something.
So you have to feel something, okay? So yeah, I mean, if you're writing scary stories, you've got to try and scare people. I mean, my publishers want to publish me if I didn't have that ability to do that. Is it healthy for writers to write about these things? It depends. I don't dwell on anything that I write like that. I write the story, and it goes. If somebody's asked me, you know, well, the book you've written, Dracula's Bedlam, last year, there was this part in it, and you know, this happened and that happened. I can't remember half of that because it's a book that I've written about 8 months ago, and then it disappears. It goes out of my radar. I think that the truly dark stuff is what we do to each other. It's not monsters.
Chris, why is it though about Dracula? Why are so many people intrigued with that, with the vampire thing? You see that more than you see Frankenstein, more than you see the Mummy, more than you see. So why do you feel the vampire thing has always been so for people?
Well, there's a couple of reasons, I think. One is the fear of death.
Fear of death.
And vampires kind of elicit this whole concept of being able to live on, even though they're dead.
Eternal life.
Yeah, eternal life. And you know, Dracula's not a good guy. Dracula's not a good guy. He's a horrible narcissist. He's the worst kind of being that you could ever encounter. The original Dracula, written by Bram Stoker, was not as Hollywood depicted him. So once Hollywood started depicting Dracula of Bela Lugosi onwards to Gary Oldman, they created this very romantic character with the opera cloak and quite handsome. Dracula in the original novel is quite old. He's got white hair, he's got a moustache, and he's got hairy hands. He's not attractive in any way, shape, or form. He's a narcissist. He was actually based on a real life person called Henry.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Henry Irving. So Sir Henry Irving was an actor. He was the first knighted actor in the UK, and Bram Stoker was his theatre manager. And Irving was quite a diva, and wasn't the nicest. And I think that's the reason why when Bram passed the original manuscript of Dracula to his publisher, he said to the publisher, "This is a true story," and that's what he meant by that. That it was a true story. He had taken a person that he knew and sort of crafted him into a complete monster. And how many writers do that? Quite a lot, because I'm sure it was quite frustrating to work with somebody like Henry Irving. So I mean, this was the way of him releasing maybe some of the tension in the working relationship. The other reasons that Dracula in particular is fascinating to people is that the vampire myth has been around for a very long time. One of the earliest vampire myths actually comes from Ireland, where you would have the vampire coming out of the bog. Now, I'll tell you a really interesting story about an Irish vampire, and I'm going to probably butcher the Celtic name, but it was a name called Abertach. Okay. And Abertach was a small magician who used to torment an Irish king and his people. They killed him, and he came back as a vampire and demanded blood. They then killed him again. They basically staked him and cut his head off. So that's where that comes from. And they buried him upside down in an ash tree. That tree exists today in a farm in Ireland, and the successive farmers over the last 800, 900 years have always tried to move that tree. Now, there's some interesting stories where a farmer will have his tractor, he'd tie a rope around the tree and try and move the tractor. Before he gets the rope around the tree, the tractor will move off by itself. They've tried to dig up the tree, they've tried to do all sorts of things, and the tree will not fall. These are some of the funny
in real life.
In real life. So these are some of the stories around Celtic, Irish vampires. And that's where Bram Stoker really draws. It's not the Eastern European vampire that Bram drew Dracula from. It was actually from Ireland, from the stories of Ireland. It was Bram Stoker, it was Irish.
Here's something. I want you to talk about this real quick because I see what's going on out there in the comments. And Lori Whitney, always starting something. Lori, I'm just kidding. Lori said, oh, this sounds dark. Ooh. Now, here's where it starts getting good. Lori said, not healthy for the mind. And immediately, Lori, I was like, I'm not so sure about that. And I'll tell you why. But then Shane came in and said, oh, au contraire. It's actually very healthy for the mind and for the soul. Talk about that. What's going on here between these two?
Have you ever been to a therapist and talked about your feelings?
I'm married to one. Yeah, and I got a whole string of them behind me.
Right. So horror can be like going to a good therapist and talking about things. I have friends who write horror who have been through terrible things like rape and child abuse, and that has come out through their writing. It has been a form of therapy. Now, I've lived a really blessed life.
Yes.
I have not had a lot of horrible things happen to me. So when I write horror, I'm writing it for entertainment purposes. But for some people who read some of the stuff that I write, it enables them to start talking about what has happened to them. It's again a sort of an allegory, a cipher for this. We shouldn't be afraid of the darkness. I mean, when you look at
absolutely right
psychoanalysis of Jung, he looks at the shadow self, and if you're afraid of your shadow self, if you're afraid of that darker part of yourself, which is coming from that evolutionary mind, if you're afraid of that can cause a lot of mental illness. A lot of therapists, I mean, I'm just a layman in these terms, but a lot of therapists talk about the integration of the shadow self and bringing the shadow self back into line. We cannot escape the fact that we are creatures who are made of light and dark, of good and evil. We all have the choice to make, and we all have fantasies, and some of our fantasies can be slightly darker, and that can come from the kid who wants to be Darth Vader rather than Luke Skywalker. And that's the child expressing, I would love to be able to force choke my brother, or I'd love to be able to do. And that's just an expression. It's just a fictional expression, but it allows the kid or whoever to get that sort of frustration out. And have we lost Lauren? And am I talking on my own? I might be. So here we go. So it's interesting. My mother probably wouldn't. My mother probably wouldn't be too happy with some of the stuff I write. I do come from a very strict Christian household, and what I write isn't for everybody. I try to be mindful of other people's sensibilities, but yeah, it's not for everybody. I can't see your comments. If you want to, if anybody has any other questions, I'll address them as Lauren's not here. There are a few upcoming books, I have to say. Yes, Sherry. So I'll run through quickly what we've done in the last year. So in the last year, I've created a concept called StokerVerse. So I work with Bram Stoker's great grandnephew, Decker Stoker. And we take the concepts of not just Dracula. Look, everybody focuses on Dracula with Bram's work. Bram was the Neil Gaiman of his day. Bram wrote drama, he wrote fantasy. Yes, he wrote horror, but he was a very sophisticated and multi-talented writer. So we're taking fantasy concepts, we're taking the horror and all that sort of stuff, and we create a sort of unified universe through those. So we've got one graphic novel out, which is called Virgin's Embrace. It's an update of Bram Stoker's story, and I hate this term, squaw. We updated it. It was praised by the Canadian government because of how it handled the sensitive issue of Native America, and updated it. We have an audio drama out called Voices of Dracula, and I've written that, and I was very lucky. I'm a Doctor Who fan, so I was very lucky to have some Doctor Who actors and the Hollywood actor Simon Templeman get involved in that as well, and Claudia Christian, who some people might know her from Babylon 5. And we also have a novel out called Dracula's Bedlam, and that was written with Decker, myself, and Doctor Who and Star Trek writer John Payne. We've got a lot of stories out in various anthologies, and I was very privileged to write a short 4-page comic strip for Scar Comics for their Dead by Dawn issue 1 as well. So there's lots of. I think there's something like. I think I've got something like 15 stories out at the minute.
You did say Dead by Dawn.
Dead by Dawn, yeah, that's the.
So don't make any lunch plans with them.
This year we're now moving into not just horror. So we've created this franchise called the Dark Universes, and we've got science fiction. So I'm writing science fiction with Babylon 5's Claudia Christian. Right. We've got a fantasy universe. So that's various mythological characters that sort of come together. So we've taken characters from various worldwide mythologies and sort of crafted a fantasy universe there. Okay. I've also written some crime and mystery stories there, and we've just started a cyberpunk universe. So there's a lot going on this year. Scar Comics is going to be publishing our science fiction comic book range as well. We have various games coming out in the StokerVerse, so we've got a couple of RPG games.
Is this where people can find your books?
You can find it on StokerVerse.com. You can also find the books in the Dark Universes website. Thanks, Lauren. If you go to Amazon and Google, put my name in Amazon, you'll see those as well. And all the magazines and things I write for.
Hey, there was a question. I think it was Jamie. Yeah, I thought it was interesting too. Could you just tell us real quick, what did you write about in your dissertation?
Yeah, Gnostic thought, Gnosticism. So Gnosticism is it predates Christianity. Gnosticism is, if you ever watch The Matrix, basically The Matrix based is Gnostic thought. So the concept that, sort of paraphrasing this, but the concept of the God of this world being malevolent and malign, and there's another God, wisdom, Sophia, wisdom, who exists above that God. The God of this world, the Gnostics believed was called Arabraxas. It's a sort of dualism. So physical reality bad, spiritual reality good, and it's a way of looking at the world. I don't agree with it personally, but it's a way of looking at the world that everything physical is terrible, it's always corrupted, and everything spiritual is perfect. I don't think that's the case. I think that it's all about attitude, it's all about positivity, and it's about altruism as well.
I want to say this because just before we get out of here, when we were talking about and what Lori was saying about it's not good for the. I'm trying to get back to it. I want to say this for me personally, because I agree with Shane when he said this. It's actually very healthy for the mind and for the soul. I'll tell you why for me. Because as a kid, I was very scary. Things under the bed, things in the closet. I look at my grandma's shower every time I go in the bathroom before I could use it. I was afraid of things that did not exist. And she used to always tell me, no, you need to be, you need a little fear so that all your inner things can engage, intuition and fight or flight and all that. But if you're going to be afraid of something, be afraid of something that's real. Because you'll go insane if you're afraid or running from something, hiding from something that does not exist. So what I love about reading these kinds of things or watching those types of movies is that they remind me that that is where that kind of fear exists for me. You know what I'm saying? In there. And it allows me to actually understand it, swim in that pool, if you will. Because ignoring it just places it someplace it doesn't belong, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You
need an ability to sort of cope with scary things, and it usually starts with imagined scary things.
Exactly.
We have to sort of grow calluses a little bit to be able to survive life. Life is difficult. It's hard. But yeah, I say to people, don't be afraid of Dracula. Don't be afraid of the boogeyman in your closet. They don't exist.
Yes.
Be afraid of poverty. Be afraid of world hunger. Be afraid of man's inhumanity to man. That's what really disgusts me. It's absolutely terrifying out there whenever I see fellow human beings being treated badly. I see Laurie's comment. What I will say, Laurie, is that what you're talking about is something called the old hag syndrome. Plato wrote about it. It's about the two sides of the brain. When you sleep, there's a side of the brain that switches off so that you don't go sleepwalking. And then whenever you wake up, it switches off and another side comes on. If you're experiencing sleep paralysis and you see things, that's because the two sides of the brain are clicking on at the same time. A physician will be able to discuss that with you. But it is the source of a few artistic personifications of something sitting on the chest and things like that. So what you're experiencing is absolutely completely real, but it's a medical condition. And then we've taken that medical condition and we've mythologized it and called it the old hag syndrome. Some people actually see something sitting at the corner of the room as they're paralyzed. It's fascinating. But again, that's all part of art. It's all part of, horror writing and looking at something that's physiologically real.
Right.
But crafting something from that, So, and then there's things called shadow people, where people will see shadows and all of that sort of stuff. And again, that's a psychological phenomenon. And we've created stories about this. This is another aspect of horror, that people write stories about something which they experience but don't quite understand. Mm-hmm. I could be quite glib and say that's 99% of religion as well.
Well, I want to say this before we get out of here. I just find it so intriguing, and I also am just amazed. I did not know until today that Anne Rice, wrote religious books. And here you are. So it's really something to take a look at. And I suggest you all do. Let's learn more. And I've already, but I'll put them up again. If you'd like to continue the dialogue with Dr. Chris, you can head over to this site, darkuniverses.com. There's a dash in there. Don't leave that out. Sherry's already dropped it in the chat for you. And then also at StokerVerse.com. And Chris, I must say, you're so talented. You're a gifted writer. But you really need to work on that fake ass Irish thing. Because I happen to know, because I speak Irish, that you could do better. For instance, here are my favorite Irish statements, which is, give me my Lucky Charms. They're magically delicious.
Give me my Lucky Charms. Give me my Lucky Charms.
Right.
They're delicious. Oh, my Lucky Charms.
No, you need to work on that. You need to work. What about this one? Manly, yes, but I like it too. Irish Spring soap.
Right.
Okay, well, last one from a movie.
Right.
Give me back me gold and I'll leave you alone. Now, he
Give
was
me-
sorry.
Give me back my gold and I'll leave you alone.
That was good. There you go. Now, don't ever do that in my house when the lights are off, because I'll go screaming out. That little guy, his teeth.
Where's that? Where's that from? Is that the Leprechaun film?
A leprechaun. Yes, his scary ass. He's got, boy,
Right.
that little thing.
He gives Irish people a bad name.
He scared me. He really did, for real. More than Dracula ever could.
We
So,
just drink Guinness and we're nice people. That's all. That's the truth with the Irish.
Do you drink it warm?
Yes.
Okay. Well, well, listen, Chris, we got to get you back here because
Yeah, sure.
you're just so intriguing. And I just
Thank
feel
you.
that there's a whole bunch of territory that we haven't covered yet. So I'm going to ask you to let's get together and find something a few months down the road and bring you back, because I believe we got a lot more ground to cover here today. But again, you guys, if you want to learn more about Chris, I'm going to put these back up on the screen one more time as we get out of here. It's our first show of the new season, season 7. Sorry, I've been feeling under the weather, but we're here nonetheless because I missed you guys so much. Chris, what a wonderful first show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
darkuniverses.com, you guys, or also over at StokerVerse.com. I want to thank you so much again. Thank you, Giovanna Salas and Heart Hollywood, for this great connection. And I want to thank all of you. Why? Because you make me feel good about myself just by being here. Join me tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Central, out front on the front porch. I may still be doing this, but I don't care. I wouldn't miss this for the world. Tomorrow, we have an up-and-coming model, a young man who has done great things in just a short period of time. Wait till you hear how he's done it. That and more tomorrow morning when we meet for our next installment of Bathrobe Moments. Bye, Chris. Have a great day.
Bye, folks.
Happy New
Catch you
Year.
later. Happy New
See you
Year,
guys
everybody.
tomorrow. Yes, God bless you all. Bye-bye.